Before we begin, if you enjoy these BL storytelling videos and want to support the continuation of this channel, you can join my Patreon, SpicyTimeBL. YouTube doesn't always make it easy to monetize this kind of content, so Patreon really helps me keep creating these stories. You can find the link in the description and pinned comment. And for those who want story continuations, bonus scenes, early access, and more uncensored 18+ BL content, SpicyTimeBL is where you can find it. Now let's get into the story. The rain was coming down in sheets, heavy and unforgiving, soaking right through the thin fabric of Ren's black suit. He was only 22. Just a university senior, standing alone in front of a cold stone monument, staring at the fresh earth. His older sister Maya was a first responder. She had been his entire world. Their parents had passed away when Ren was just a boy, and Maya had raised him. She was a hero. She had died a hero, pulling a trapped civilian from a collapsed structure before the secondary collapse took her life. But right now, standing in the freezing rain, Ren didn't care about heroism. He just wanted his sister back. "She's gone, Ren. It's a tragedy, yes, but we have to be practical." The grating, oily voice of his uncle Marcus broke through the sound of the rain. Ren didn't turn around, he just kept his eyes fixed on the ground. Marcus hadn't spoken to them in 6 years, not since he tried to steal the little inheritance their parents had left behind. But the moment the news of Maya's death and the subsequent city payout and life insurance hit the papers, Marcus had appeared like a vulture sensing decay. "You're just a kid," Marcus continued, stepping closer, holding a large umbrella that he didn't even bother to share with his grieving nephew. "You don't know how to handle that kind of money. The house, the settlement, it should be transferred to me. I'm your elder. I'll take care of it. You just sign the papers, and you can come live in the basement at my place. You'll earn your keep. Otherwise, the bank is going to eat you alive." Ren's hands were trembling, completely numb from the cold. He couldn't speak. The lump in his throat felt like shattered glass. "Did you hear me, boy?" Marcus snapped, reaching out and grabbing Ren's shoulder, roughly shaking him. "Don't act deaf. You owe this family." "Take your hand off him." The voice was low. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the pouring rain and the thunder like a steel blade. Marcus froze. Ren slowly turned his head, his wet hair plastered to his pale face. Walking toward them was a man who looked like he belonged to an entirely different world. He was tall, dressed in an immaculate dark charcoal trench coat over a tailored three-piece suit. His face was strikingly handsome, but carved with an expression of such absolute, freezing authority that the air around them seemed to drop 10 degrees. Behind him, 2 men in black suits held a large umbrella over his head. Though the man seemed completely indifferent to the storm. Ren recognized him instantly. Kaelen Vance. He was 28, the CEO of Vance Holdings and someone who owed his very life to Maya. 2 years ago, Maya had pulled Kaelen from a burning vehicle on the highway. Kaelen had been a fixture in their lives ever since. A quiet, towering presence who sent Maya gifts on holidays and always treated Ren with a gentle, intense respect that always made Ren's heart beat a little faster. "Who the hell are you?" Marcus sneered, though he instinctively took a step back. Kaelen didn't even look at Marcus. His dark, piercing eyes were entirely fixed on Ren. He stepped closer, signaling his men to step back. Kaelen took his own umbrella, holding it directly over Ren, sheltering him from the biting rain, letting his own coat get soaked in the process. "Are you all right?" Kaelen's voice softened the moment he spoke to Ren. It was a tone so gentle, so devastatingly warm, that it made a fresh tear slip down Ren's cheek. I don't know," Ren whispered, his voice cracking. "Hey, I'm talking to you," Marcus barked, trying to regain his false bravado. "This is family business. Mind your own." Kaelen slowly turned his head. The warmth in his eyes vanished, replaced by a ruthless, quiet dark. "You are not family. You are a parasite. If you so much as breathe in his direction again, my legal department will freeze every asset you have ever touched, and my security will ensure you forget how to walk. Do you understand me?" Marcus opened his mouth to argue, but the sheer suffocating pressure of Kaelen's gaze shut him up. He swallowed hard, muttered a curse under his breath, and scrambled away, slipping in the mud as he fled. Kaelen turned back to Ren. The tension bled out of his shoulders. He reached out, his warm, bare hand gently cupping the side of Ren's freezing face. Ren gasped softly at the touch, leaning into the warmth instinctively, his eyes fluttering shut. "Your sister was a hero, Ren," Kaelen said softly, his thumb brushing away a stray raindrop from Ren's cheek. "She asked me if anything ever happened to her to make sure you were safe. I can give you a home. I can protect you. Would you like to come with me?" Ren opened his eyes, looking up through his wet lashes into Kaelen's deep, steady gaze. There was no pity in those eyes, only a fierce, unbreakable promise. I have nowhere to go, Ren whispered, his voice trembling. I'm so alone now. You are not alone, Kaelen said firmly. Never again. Come with me. That evening, Ren found himself standing in the center of Kaelen's sprawling luxury penthouse in the heart of the city. The walls were made of floor-to-ceiling glass, overlooking the glittering skyline. It was beautiful, but it felt so vast, too quiet. This will be your home from now on, Kaelen said, helping Ren out of his damp coat. Kaelen's hands lingered on Ren's shoulders, his thumbs pressing gently into the tense muscles. You can stay here however you want, as long as you want. You don't have to worry about a thing. Ren looked down at his own trembling hands. Am I a burden to you? You don't have to do this, Mr. Vance. Kaelen, the older man corrected gently, stepping into Ren's line of sight, forcing Ren to look at him. Call me Kaelen, and you could never be a burden. We are family now. Let me take care of you. Kaelen had prepared a room specifically for him. It was warm, painted in soft tones with heavy blankets and the faint scent of lavender. But as soon as the door closed, as soon as the quiet settled in, the reality of the day crashed over Ren like a tidal wave. Maya was gone. Ren sank to the floor at the foot of the bed, pulling his knees to his chest, and sobbed. He cried until he couldn't breathe, his whole body shaking with the force of his grief. He tried to muffle the sounds against his arms, terrified of bothering Kaelen. But within seconds, the door clicked open. Kaelen was there. He didn't hesitate. He crossed the room, knelt on the floor in his expensive dress pants, and pulled Ren into his arms. Kaelen's chest was broad, solid, and incredibly warm. He smelled like cedar and expensive cologne. Ren buried his face in Kaelen's neck, clutching at the fabric of his shirt. Kaelen didn't say a word. He just held him, one hand resting on the back of Ren's head, the other rubbing soothing circles on his back. Don't hold it back, Kaelen murmured against Ren's hair. I'm right here with you. I'm right here. They stayed on the floor for a long time. Eventually, Kaelen helped Ren up, guided him to the bed, and tucked him in. It's late. Try to sleep, Kaelen whispered, brushing a stray lock of hair from Ren's forehead. Will you be there? Ren asked, his voice panicked, his hand shooting out to grab Kaelen's wrist. He was so terrified that if he closed his eyes, everyone he cared about would vanish. I'm afraid I won't see anyone when I wake up. Kaelen looked down at Ren's hand wrapped tightly around his wrist. A soft, unreadable emotion crossed Kaelen's eyes. He gently covered Ren's hand with his own. My room is just next to yours. I will leave the door unlocked. If you call for me, I will be here in a second. I swear it. It was around 2 a.m. when the nightmare hit. Ren was running through falling buildings, screaming Maya's name, choking on smoke, but every time he reached for her, she crumbled to ash. He woke up with a choked scream, his chest heaving, tears streaming down his face. The room was pitch black. The silence was deafening. The panic was clawing at his throat. He didn't even think. He threw off the covers, stumbled out of his room, and pushed open the door to Kaelen's bedroom. Kaelen was already sitting up, turning on the bedside lamp. He must have heard the scream. Ren? Kaelen's voice was raspy from sleep, but immediately laced with deep concern. What is it? What's wrong? Ren stood in the doorway, shivering in his oversized pajamas, hugging himself. I had a nightmare, he choked out, feeling suddenly embarrassed, feeling like a little kid. But the terror was so heavy he could barely stand. I'm so scared. I can't sleep alone. Please. He looked down, tears falling onto his bare feet. Can I sleep with you? There was a heartbeat of silence. Ren squeezed his eyes shut, preparing to be turned away. But then he heard the rustle of sheets. Come here, Kaelen said softly. Ren opened his eyes. Kaelen had pulled back the heavy duvet on the right side of his massive king-size bed, patting the mattress. Ren hurried over, crawling into the bed. The sheets were incredibly warm, carrying Kaelen's clean, masculine scent. Kaelen reached over, turning off the lamp, plunging the room back into a soft, moonlit darkness. But this time, the darkness wasn't scary. Ren lay stiffly on his side, his back to Kaelen, trying not to take up too much space. But he couldn't stop shivering. A moment later, he felt the mattress shift. Kaelen moved closer, not touching him entirely, but close enough that Ren could feel the radiant heat of Kaelen's body at his back. Kaelen gently pulled the blanket up, tucking it securely around Ren's shoulders. Don't be afraid, Kaelen's deep voice vibrated in the quiet room just inches from Ren's ear. Nothing is going to hurt you while I'm here. Ren let out a shaky breath, the panic finally subsiding. Thank you, Kaelen, he whispered. Go to sleep, Ren, Kaelen murmured. Ren fell asleep enveloped in warmth, the rhythmic sound of Kaelen's breathing acting like a lullaby. He didn't have another nightmare that night. When Ren woke up the next morning, sunlight was streaming through the curtains. He shifted, realizing his arm was thrown over Kaelen's chest, his face buried against the older man's shoulder. He froze, his face flushing violently red. He carefully tried to pull back, but Kaelen was awake, looking down at him with an expression so soft it made Ren's heart skip a beat. "I'm sorry," Ren stammered, pulling his arm back quickly. "I shouldn't have bothered you." "You never bother me," Kaelen said, his voice laced with that morning rasp that made a strange flutter ignite in Ren's stomach. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Ren said honestly. Over the next few weeks, a quiet domestic rhythm developed between them. Kaelen was incredibly busy, running a massive corporate empire, but he always made time for Ren. They ate breakfast together every morning. Kaelen would read the Financial Times while sipping black coffee, and Ren would sit across from him, eating toast, secretly stealing glances at the way Kaelen's strong jawline caught the morning light. Every time their eyes met, Kaelen would offer a small, private smile that he seemed to reserve only for Ren. Ren was in the final semester of his university degree, and alongside it, he had an internship at a prominent architectural firm in the city. It was supposed to be a stepping stone for his career, but returning to work after Maya's death was agonizing. "I'll have my driver take you to the office today," Kaelen said one morning as Ren was tying his shoes. "No need, Kaelen," Ren replied quickly, standing up and adjusting his bag. "I can take the subway. I don't want to cause trouble." "It's no trouble," Kaelen said, walking over to him. He reached out, his long fingers gently adjusting the collar of Ren's shirt. The proximity made Ren hold his breath. Kaelen was so close that Ren could see the individual lashes framing his dark eyes. "I just worry about you. Have you been doing all right at work?" Ren forced a smile. "Everything is fine." But it wasn't fine. Before we continue with the story, a quick reminder. If you love the slow burn romance, the emotional tension, and the dramatic moments in these stories, consider checking out my Patreon, SpicyTimeBL. Your support helps keep this channel alive, and over on Patreon, you can get access to the uncensored 18+ continuations of these stories, bonus chapters, and early access. It's a wonderful community, and I'd love to see you there. Now back to Ren and Kaelen. When Ren stepped out of Kaelen's sleek black Maybach a block away from his office building, he thought he was being discreet. He didn't realize that a few of the junior architects from his firm were standing at the coffee shop across the street watching him. By the time Ren got to his desk, the whispers had already started. "Did you see the car he got out of? I heard his sister just died. How did he find a sugar daddy so fast? Must be nice playing the tragic orphan card to get a rich guy to fund your life." Ren kept his head down, staring at his blueprints, his knuckles turning white as he gripped his pencil. He tried to ignore them. He tried to just endure it. This was his dream job. He couldn't mess it up. But things escalated. Books were knocked off his desk by accident. Important files went missing. When he walked down the hallway, the otherwise noisy conversation would suddenly drop by a few decibels. People looked at him with a mix of pity and disgust. And then, a week later, the nightmare walked right through the front doors of the building lobby. Ren was coming downstairs for his lunch break when he heard a voice that made his blood run cold. "Dear colleagues, friends, please listen to me." It was Marcus. His uncle was standing in the center of the corporate lobby, holding a cheap megaphone, looking disheveled but dangerous. A crowd of office workers, including several people from Ren's department, had stopped to watch the spectacle. "I am this boy's only living family," Marcus yelled, pointing dramatically as he spotted Ren frozen on the stairs. "I am his uncle. I tried to take him in, to give him a decent home after his poor sister passed away. But what did he do? He abandoned his family to go live in the penthouse of a billionaire. He's selling himself for luxury." "Stop it!" Ren gasped, rushing down the stairs, his face burning with humiliation. "What are you doing here? Get out! I'm here for your own good," Marcus yelled, putting down the megaphone but keeping his voice booming. "You think that rich CEO cares about you? You're a toy to him. You're disgracing your sister's memory. She died a hero, and you're out here playing whore to the elite," gasps rippled through the lobby. People were pulling out their phones. Ren felt like he was suffocating. The walls were closing in. "You don't know anything about him," Ren said, his voice trembling violently, fists clenched at his sides. "He took me in because you tried to steal my sister's life insurance, because you're a parasite." "A parasite?" Marcus scoffed loudly, playing to the crowd. "Listen to him, the arrogance of a boy who thinks he's climbed a high branch. You've always been bad luck, Ren," You're a losing star. First your parents, then Maya, and now you're going to ruin that CEO too. You just drain the life out of everyone who loves you." Those words hit Ren like a physical blow to the chest. A losing star, draining the life out of everyone. That was his deepest, darkest fear. That he was the reason everyone left him. "Security!" A loud voice echoed from the elevators. The building manager rushed forward. "Get this man out of here immediately." Marcus was dragged out shouting curses, but the damage was done. The lobby was silent. Everyone was staring at Ren. A guy named Liam, a rival intern who had always hated Ren, leaned against the reception desk and smirked. "Well, that explains a lot. I guess we can't all have that kind of luck. A luxury house, a luxury car. How much skill do you have in the bedroom to get a billionaire to pay your debts?" Ren felt something snap inside his chest. The grief, the trauma, the exhaustion, the utter disrespect for the life his sister had lived. It all boiled over. "Say that again," Ren whispered, his voice dangerously low. "What?" Liam laughed, stepping closer. "Are you going to cry, Ren?" "I'm just saying, it's pretty pathetic. Using your dead sister's tragedy to—" Ren didn't even think. He lunged. His fist collided with Liam's jaw with a sickening crack. Liam stumbled back, crashing into a potted plant, shouting in surprise. "Keep your mouth clean!" Ren screamed, tears finally spilling over his eyelashes. "My sister was a hero, and Kaelen is a better man than you will ever be. Don't you ever talk about them!" Liam scrambled up, wiping blood from his lip, furious. He shoved Ren hard in the chest. Ren stumbled, his shoulder hitting the marble pillar hard, but before Liam could swing back, 3 security guards tackled him. "Ren, my office, now!" the department head shouted. 30 minutes later, Ren was walking out of the building. He had been suspended pending an investigation. He was told to go home, but he couldn't go back to the penthouse. He couldn't face Kaelen. "You're a losing star," his uncle's voice echoed in his head. "You drain the life out of everyone." What if it was true? Kaelen was a respected CEO. If the tabloids caught wind that his ward was brawling in office lobbies, if Marcus went to the press, Kaelen's reputation could be damaged. Kaelen had done nothing but protect him, feed him, hold him when he cried. Ren couldn't let his own messy, broken life drag Kaelen down. Ren didn't call the driver. He didn't take the subway. He just started walking. The sky, which had been gray all morning, finally broke, unleashing a torrential downpour. Ren didn't have an umbrella. He just kept walking, letting the icy rain soak through his clothes, wandering aimlessly through the city parks, sitting on a lonely bench by the river as the sun began to set. He was shivering violently, his knuckles bruised and bleeding, his shoulder aching from where he hit the pillar. He had never felt so utterly, completely alone. Meanwhile, back at Vance Holdings, Kaelen was in the middle of a board meeting when his phone buzzed. It was a text from the head of his personal security detail, whom Kaelen had secretly assigned to shadow Ren from a distance. "Sir, there was an incident at the firm, an altercation. Ren left the building on foot 2 hours ago. He turned off his phone. We lost eyes on him in the subway station. We are searching now. Kaelen stopped speaking mid-sentence. The entire boardroom fell silent as they watched the blood drain from their CEO's face. Kaelen stood up, his chair scraping violently against the floor. "The meeting is over," he said, his voice cold, but his eyes wide with a terrifying panic. He didn't wait for a response. He sprinted out of the room. For 3 hours, Kaelen drove through the pouring rain, his heart pounding a frantic, painful rhythm against his ribs. The security team was scouring the city, checking cameras, checking the cemetery where Maya was buried. Nothing. "Where are you, Ren? Please, God, let him be safe." It was nearly 9 p.m. when Kaelen finally spotted him. Sitting on a bench beneath a broken street lamp by the river, a small, hunched figure, completely soaked to the bone. Kaelen slammed the brakes, putting the car in park right on the curb. He didn't bother with an umbrella. He threw open the door and ran through the rain. "Ren!" Ren slowly lifted his head. His lips were blue. He looked entirely hollowed out, staring up at Kaelen through soaked, shivering lashes. "Kaelen?" Ren whispered, his teeth chattering so hard he could barely form the word. What are you doing here?" Kaelen dropped to his knees in the puddles right in front of the bench. He reached out, grabbing Ren's icy face in both hands. "What am I doing here? I've been tearing the city apart looking for you. Why is your phone off? Why are you out in the freezing rain?" Kaelen's voice was loud, frantic, laced with an anger that was entirely born of absolute terror. He looked down and saw Ren's bruised, bloody knuckles. Kaelen's breath hitched. He gently took Ren's injured hand, his thumbs grazing the bruised skin. "Who did this to you?" Kaelen's voice dropped to a dangerous, lethal whisper. "Who hurt you, Ren?" Ren tried to pull his hand away, looking down at his lap in shame. "I did it. I hit someone. I got suspended." A sob ripped through his throat, tearing out of him despite his efforts to hold it back. "My uncle came to the building. He shouted terrible things. They said I was using you. They insulted Maya. I couldn't take it. Ren looked up, tears mixing with the rain on his face, his expression so utterly heartbroken that Kaelen felt a physical pain in his own chest. "I'm a burden, Kaelen," Ren cried, his voice breaking. "My uncle is right. I'm just bad luck. I cause trouble for everyone. I don't want to ruin your reputation. You should just let me go. You should just stop it." Kaelen moved so fast, Ren didn't even have time to blink. Kaelen pulled him off the bench, dragging Ren flush against his chest, wrapping his strong arms tightly around him in a fierce, desperate hug. Ren gasped, freezing cold meeting the burning heat of Kaelen's body. "Don't you ever say that," Kaelen whispered fiercely into Ren's wet ear, holding him so tightly it almost hurt. "You are not a burden. You are not bad luck. You are the only good thing in my life, Ren. Do you hear me? If you run away from me again, I'll go crazy." Ren squeezed his eyes shut, his hands coming up to grip the fabric of Kaelen's wet coat. He buried his face in Kaelen's neck, finally breaking down completely. "I'm sorry," Ren sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You didn't," Kaelen said, pulling back just enough to press his forehead firmly against Ren's. They were both soaking wet, shivering in the cold, but between them the air was practically burning. Kaelen's dark eyes were locked onto Ren's, filled with a raw, undeniable emotion. "I will handle your uncle. I will handle your office. No one will ever speak to you that way again. But you have to promise me. You come to me. You never hide from me." "I promise," Ren whispered, his breath catching as Kaelen's thumb brushed over his lower lip. "Let's go home," Kaelen said softly. When they got back to the penthouse, Kaelen immediately ran a hot bath for Ren, ordering him to soak until he stopped shivering. While Ren was in the bathroom, Kaelen made a single, brief phone call. "Check with the group's legal department immediately," Kaelen ordered his assistant, his voice completely devoid of mercy. "I want Marcus's entire life dismantled. Buy out his debts. Foreclose on his properties. Find out exactly what happened at the architectural firm this afternoon. All the details. Who said what. I want the intern who provoked Ren blacklisted from the industry, and I want a controlling stake in that firm by tomorrow morning." He hung up the phone. No one touched what belonged to Kaelen Vance. 20 minutes later, Ren emerged from the bathroom. He was wearing an oversized gray sweater and soft sweatpants, his hair towel-dried and fluffy. The blue had left his lips, replaced by a soft, natural pink, though he still looked exhausted. Kaelen was sitting on the edge of the large sofa in the living room. The lights were dimmed, a fire crackling in the fireplace. Kaelen had changed into dry clothes, a simple black long-sleeve shirt that clung to his broad shoulders. "Come here," Kaelen said, gesturing to the spot next to him. He had a first aid kit open on the coffee table. Ren walked over nervously and sat down. Kaelen took Ren's injured hand gently in his own. He uncapped a tube of ointment and began to carefully dab it onto Ren's bruised knuckles. "It will hurt a little," Kaelen murmured, his focus entirely on Ren's hand. "It's okay," Ren said quietly. Ren sat perfectly still, unable to tear his eyes away from Kaelen's face. The firelight cast warm shadows across Kaelen's sharp jaw and high cheekbones. Ren noticed the way Kaelen's dark lashes rested against his cheeks, the utter gentleness in his large, powerful hands. This man was a giant in the corporate world, known for being ruthless and cold, yet here he was, treating Ren like he was made of fragile glass. "Why do you do so much for me?" Ren whispered, the question slipping out before he could stop it. "You said you promised Maya you would keep me safe, but you didn't have to do all this. You didn't have to search in the rain for me." Kaelen paused. He kept holding Ren's hand, his thumb resting gently against Ren's wrist, right over his racing pulse. Slowly, Kaelen lifted his head, his dark eyes meeting Ren's. The intensity in that gaze made all the air vanish from the room. "Do you really think I do this just because of a promise to your sister?" Kaelen's voice was a low, rough murmur. Ren swallowed hard, his heart hammering against his ribs. I don't know." Kaelen shifted closer on the couch. He didn't let go of Ren's hand. Instead, his other hand reached up, gently cupped the side of Ren's face, his thumb tracing the line of Ren's cheekbone. I respected Maya, Kaelen said softly, his eyes dropping to Ren's lips for a fraction of a second before meeting his eyes again. But I care about you, Ren. More than I should, more than I ever planned to. Ren's breath hitched. He leaned into the touch of Kaelen's hand, his own hand trembling in Kaelen's grip. Kaelen. I couldn't breathe when I realized you were gone today, Kaelen confessed, his voice thick with a vulnerability Ren had never seen before. I was terrified. I realized, I can't lose you. I want you to stay with me, not as a ward, not because you have nowhere else to go, because I want you here. Ren looked into Kaelen's eyes and saw everything he had been too afraid to hope for. The protection, the loyalty, the quiet, burning devotion. Ren didn't feel like a losing star anymore. He felt seen. He felt safe. He felt deeply, undeniably loved. I want to stay, Ren whispered, his voice trembling but sure. I want to be with you. Kaelen let out a ragged breath. He leaned in, closing the distance between them. When their lips met, it was slow, incredibly gentle, and completely devastating. Ren closed his eyes, a quiet sigh escaping him as Kaelen's hand slid to the back of his neck, tilting his head to deepen the kiss. It wasn't rushed. It was a kiss full of profound relief, an unspoken promise that the worst of the storm was finally over. Ren's uninjured hand came up, grasping the front of Kaelen's shirt, pulling him closer, anchoring himself to the man who had become his entire world. When they finally pulled apart, they rested their foreheads together, breathing in the shared air, lingering in the quiet intimacy of the firelight. Kaelen pressed a soft kiss to the tip of Ren's nose. You belong with me now, Kaelen murmured, a soft, genuine smile finally breaking across his handsome face. No one is ever going to hurt you again. And as Ren leaned his head against Kaelen's solid chest, listening to the steady, comforting rhythm of his heartbeat, he knew with absolute certainty that Kaelen was right. He was finally home. Thank you all so much for listening to this story. If you enjoyed the emotional journey between Ren and Kaelen, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below letting me know what your favorite moment was. And remember, if you want to read what happens next behind closed doors or get access to early and uncensored BL stories, head over to my Patreon, SpicyTimeBL. The link is in the description. I appreciate every single one of you, and I can't wait to share the next story with you. Until next time, stay safe and keep loving.